Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope that you're all doing good and that your week is going well. Well, it's time to look at what is going on with the market. Which direction are we moving? Are we going up or are we starting to see some declines? Spoiler alert, things are looking a little bit scary this week, but I'll explain why at the end of this video. And for now, let's take a look at the general market capacity and then the best areas for flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans. Ready? Let's go! All right, first and foremost, how did capacity change week over week? As of last Friday, we lost an additional 360 carriers net, which is not a small amount. Now, what about the spot versus contract rates? As a reminder, the dark blue is us in 2024. The light blue is comparing it to last year. And we can see the higher the line is, the smaller the difference between contract rates and spot rates, which means that you can see that the contract carriers are continuing to get squeezed. Now, currently, contract carriers are earning on average 56 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. Now let's look at the general freight volume. The white line is us in 2024, comparing it to the blue line in 2023. So you can see the volume was going up and then it saw a sharp decrease. We'll talk about what happened at the end of the video, but the point is it did see a sharp decrease, but if we compare year to year, it's at the same time as last year. Yep, you guessed it. It's the 4th of July weekend. Now, in terms of rejection rates, same concept. The white line is us in 2024, and you can see that it kind of peaked and then started going down sharply. Now, currently, the rejection levels are at 5.4%. So they're below that 6% mark that we saw a week or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, 5.4%. Now, when it comes to diesel prices, unfortunately, I have nothing good to share. As you can see, the line is moving up, which means that the diesel prices are increasing. And this is according to Truck Stop. They're reporting their price per gallon. So currently, the national average is at $3.90 per gallon, inching closer to that $4 per gallon mark. All right. Now let's talk about the spot market, starting with dry vans. So last week, the rate per mile for dry vans was on average $2.05. This week, it saw a 2-cent increase to $2.07. Now, year over year, as you can see, it's a 2% increase. So rates this year are 2% higher than they were for dry vans last year. And this is for the spot market. Again, this data is from FTR Intel. Now, over a 5-year period, rates are down 8%, of course. Now let's talk about volumes. Week over week, volumes fell by over 43% on the spot market for dry vans. Now, year over year, by 13%. And over 5 years, dry van volumes this year compared to the 5-year average are 42% lower. So now let's talk about what are the better areas for dry vans. And as always, we're taking Sonar's 2 charts, rejections and volumes. This is for the general market, not the spot market. Looking at them in detail, which is this table right here, and then figuring out where more loads are going from the contract market to the spot market. So in terms of general freight volume, the top 5 states for dry vans, and this doesn't mean these are the best markets. These are just markets with the most volumes. Dallas, Texas, Ontario, California, Los Angeles, California, Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin, Texas. Now, in terms of rejections. Where are contract carriers rejecting more freight? Well, number 1 is Roanoke, Virginia. You can see the rejection in brackets. Number 2 is Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Then Dubuque, Iowa. Then we have Rapid City, South Dakota. And finally, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Again, this doesn't mean these are the best markets. But when we put the volumes and the rejections together, then we figure out the best markets for dry vans. And those are number 1, Dallas, Texas, followed by Austin, Texas, Ontario, California, Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. All right, now let's talk about reefers on the spot market. So Last week, the average rate per mile for reefers was $2.44. This week, it's $2.51. That is a 7-cent increase. Now, year over year, rates are actually up for reefers by 8.5%, but over the last 5 years, they are down 2%. Now, volumes, just like for dry vans, we saw a huge decrease in volumes for reefers on the spot market. In this case, it was over 29%. However, comparing to last year, volumes are actually 4% higher this year than last year. But over a 5-year period, volumes are down 34%. Now again, let's figure out where the best markets for reefers are using the Sonar rejection map and the Sonar volume map for reefers. Looking at this chart, the top 5 volume states for reefers are Joplin, Missouri, Lakeland, Florida, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Joliet, Illinois, and Fort Worth, Texas. Now, in terms of the top 5 rejection states, those are Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Quincy, Illinois, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas. But putting these two together, where are more loads going from the contract market to the spot market? Number 1 is Fresno, California, then Joplin, Missouri, Ontario, California, Joliet, Illinois, and finally Fort Worth, Texas. Last but not least, flatbeds. Oh boy, flatbeds are all red, as you can see. So last week, the average rate per mile for the flatbed was $2.39. This week, it was $2.38. So it was a decrease by 1 cent per mile. Now, year over year, rates are down 2%, and over 5 years, down 8%. Volume, just like for dry vans and reefers, dropped week over week by over 47% for flatbeds. Now, year over year, volumes are down 13%, and over 5 years, they're down 56% for flatbeds. Now, again, unfortunately, I don't have Sonar maps, but I make my own for flatbeds to figure out the best market areas. So, load density, where are there more loads? The darker it is, the more loads there are. And as you can see, southern states and actually California started getting more loads. The plain states are still empty pretty much for flatbeds. But now let's take a look at capacity. So same concept, the darker an area is, the more trucks there are. And that gives us a little bit of a behavioral view. And what we can see is that the Pacific Northwest, the Northeast, and the Plain States, these are not areas where flatbeds like to go. They stick primarily to the South, East Coast, and Midwest, and California. But now putting these two together to figure out the load to truck ratio gives us an idea of which places you will have more negotiating power. The market became scary for flatbeds. As you can see, red is where there is less than a load per truck. And pretty much the whole map is red. I mean, it's the worst I have ever seen it, I believe. Now, beige, these are places where there is kind of a balance, about 1 load per truck. There are no places with 2 loads per truck, but these green areas right here, those are places with over 3 loads per truck. So these are the places where you're going to have a ton of negotiating power as a flatbed operator. But yeah, this map scared the bejesus out of me. So yes, this week things have definitely taken a scary turn, and I can already hear some of you saying that here we go again, but it's not as bad as it seems. Yes, the uptick that we have been seeing so far is seasonal, and the season is not over yet, but the huge drop in rejections and the enormous drop in volumes that we saw both in the general market and on the spot market has everything to do with Independence Day, 4th of July, which was an extra long weekend this year. Many shippers stopped working at 12 p.m. on Wednesday and didn't start working until Monday, therefore a lack of volume. And those trucks that were not covered on Wednesday and were panicking about losing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they were booking anything they could in order to make anything over this long weekend, which is why rejections fell as well. The one thing that we can conclude is that because rejections fell so much, capacity actually didn't leave the market for this long weekend. I guess more and more people are deciding to work through the holidays to make up for the years of not being able to make money. So while I'm the first one to say, don't be misled by this uptick as something fundamentally changing in the trucking industry, I'm also going to be the one who will say, don't panic about this week's numbers. They are very, very skewed because of the long weekend. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today and watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you in the next video.